Hey there, and welcome to Beyond Borders, the Immigration Evaluation Podcast. If you're a mental health professional looking to expand your practice and make a meaningful impact by conducting immigration psychological evaluations, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Mariella Shibley, and on this podcast, we dive into the ins and outs of conducting immigration evaluations, helping you grow your practice while helping families stay together. So let's get into it. Today's episode is coming straight from something that I just experienced. I was invited to present at the Federal Bar Association's immigration conference, and I want to share what I took away from that because I think it's really relevant for all of us doing this work right now. So here's the thing about being invited to present at these conferences. You always end up getting a front row seat to a lot of other presentations, and you get to spend time with immigration attorneys, former judges, people who are in the trenches every day. And that is honestly where I learn the most, not when I'm up at the podium, but when I'm sitting in the audience or having lunch with fellow attendees or even standing in a hallway during a break with a cup of coffee, just listening. So let me tell you what I heard. The overarching theme at this conference, and I don't think this will surprise anyone, was frustration and anger, like real, palpable anger and frustration and hopelessness. Attorneys are dealing with cases being denied arbitrarily, with the rules that keep shifting. The landscape is changing so fast that it's hard to build any kind of reliable strategy. And the cumulative effect of that is exhaustion, and for some, just genuine hopelessness. I went there to talk about preventing vicarious trauma in legal professionals, and I did, but what I ended up doing more was talking about managing frustration and anger and hopelessness, because that's what was actually in the room. You can feel these things, not just during presentations, but again, at lunch, during breaks, in the elevator. Attorneys were talking openly about how hard it is to practice right now. And I want to name that because if you're a clinician doing immigration work, you're in relationship with these attorneys. You're getting their referrals. You're maybe on calls with them. And understanding what they're carrying matters. Not because you need to become their therapist, obviously, but because it helps you show up with a little more patience and a little more clarity. Now that said, and I want to be clear about this, it was not all doom and gloom. There were attorneys in that room who were genuinely encouraging others, who were reminding each other that they are still winning cases. And I heard it said more than once in more than one presentation that mental health professionals conducting evaluations are still very much needed. That has not changed. What has changed is the scrutiny. So let me give you a concrete example of what I'm seeing in my own practice. So, for example, N648 referrals, the medical disability exception for naturalization, those have dropped noticeably for me, particularly from Middle Eastern communities. What's happening is that USCIS is still accepting applications from certain countries, but they're not actually processing them or scheduling interviews. So attorneys aren't sending their clients for evaluations when there's no interview on the calendar. And that's a direct ripple effect on our referral volume. On the other hand, I've seen a real increase in cancellation of removal cases and a significant uptick in evaluations for children whose parents are detained or in removal proceedings. And that is some of the heaviest clinical work you'll do in this field. And if you're getting those referrals, please make sure that you're getting good supervision and taking care of yourself. Now, I'm also seeing more competency evaluations, competency to participate in immigration proceedings, and asylum evaluations that aren't primarily about trauma assessment. They're more focused on credibility and on fear of return. That's a different kind of clinical task. I actually devoted a couple of episodes to that specific topic, so you can go back and listen to those. And then there's something that's come up quite a bit lately, and that is removal to third countries. So clients are being sent to countries where they have no ties, no family, no support system, no prospects. And attorneys are sending these clients for evaluations to help explain what that would actually mean for someone's mental health, especially when the client has a psychiatric diagnosis or an intellectual disability or other vulnerabilities. So if you haven't encountered one of these yet, then I expect that you will. I want to take a quick break to share a few ways that you can go deeper in this work. If you're looking for personalized support, I offer one-on-one consultations where we get into the specifics of your cases, your reports, and your growth as an evaluator. I also host a monthly consultation group on Zoom, the first Wednesday of every month at noon Pacific time. It's open to all experience levels, and it's a great space to bring cases, ask questions, and learn alongside others doing this work. And if you're looking to grow your practice, my online directory connects trained, qualified evaluators with attorneys and individuals who are actively looking for referrals. You can find links to all of these resources at psychevalcoach.com/podcast. That's psych, PSYCH, eval, EVAL, coach, COACH, altogether one word, .com/podcast. Now let's get back to the episode. Now, this is the part that I really want you to sit with because the attorneys at this conference were very clear, and I think what they said is worth repeating directly. Attorneys are scrutinizing everything right now, every report, every diagnosis, every conclusion, not because they don't trust us, but because the stakes are so high and the margin for error is so small. They are building records with an eye toward appeals when they know they may not prevail at immigration court. So your report is not just going to an immigration judge, it may end up being part of an appellate record. And that changes things. Now, what does that mean practically? A few things. First, if you're newer to this work, please consult. That's, of course, not a criticism. It's just the reality of the moment. The field is moving fast, and the consequences of getting something wrong are significant. So find a colleague or supervisor who knows this work and use them. Well, not use them, but reach out to them. Second, when an attorney asks you to change something in your report, don't just comply, but also don't just refuse. Ask why. Seriously, ask them what their concern is, and you will learn so much from that conversation. I've learned enormous amounts about immigration law from these moments. Now, third, if an attorney tells you that your report is too long, please listen. I know that can be hard to hear. You work hard on that 15-page document, but if an attorney says nobody's going to read this, they're not being dismissive of your work. They're just telling you something true about the adjudication environment right now. A 15-page report that doesn't get read helps no one. Same thing if they ask you to remove like a detailed narrative section from a U visa or asylum case. There are valid legal strategy reasons for that. Trust them on their domain the way that you'd want them to trust you on yours. Now, I want to share something that happened recently because I think it sort of pulls together a lot of what we've been talking about. I had an attorney call me pretty frustrated because I hadn't diagnosed her client with PTSD. Another mental health professional had actually diagnosed PTSD for that client less than 6 months earlier, along with some other conditions. And on the surface, of course, that looks like a problem, right? An inconsistency that could be used to undermine the client's credibility. But here's the thing. The referral question had nothing to do with his current diagnosis. The attorney needed me to explain why this client had missed a critical immigration deadline years ago. What was going on for him back then? What does the psychological evidence tell us about his functioning at that point in time? That was the question. His current mental health status was relevant only insofar as it showed the lingering impact of what he'd been through. It wasn't the focus. It wasn't what the case turned on. So when I evaluated this client and found that he didn't meet criteria for PTSD, I didn't just move on. I actually addressed the prior diagnosis directly in my report. I documented that, yes, this was in the records, but here's what I found, and here's how I arrived at my conclusions. What I could not do was to speak to what the other clinician observed or how they got there. I can only speak to my own evaluation. And I stood by it because the findings to me were very clear. But more importantly, I answered the referral question in detail. I explained what his psychological state looked like during the period in question, what factors contributed to him missing that deadline, and what the clinical picture tells us about why that happened. His depression was severe, well documented, and it told a compelling story about that period in his life. So when I walked the attorney through all of that, she agreed. I mean, to be honest, I think what had happened was that she was so overwhelmed that she hadn't read the report herself. Someone in her office had flagged the inconsistent diagnosis as a potential weakness, and she called me before she'd had a chance to sit with a full document. She'd gotten pulled into the diagnosis question when that wasn't even what she wanted me to answer. And I get it. Some attorneys are scanning for red flags, and sometimes they're going straight to your conclusions, to your summary, to your diagnosis, which is exactly why that section has to be bulletproof. The way that I edit reports is I always start with the summary section or conclusions, whatever you title it. I want to make sure that it directly answers the referral question and that it has enough context to make that conclusion make sense. No ambiguity, no loose ends, no unanswered questions. Just, here's what I found, here's what it means, and here's how it answers what you asked me to do. If the referral question is about what was happening 5 years ago, then make sure your summary makes that unmistakably clear so that someone scanning for the diagnosis doesn't miss the actual point of the whole report. That's what's going to serve your clients right now. And honestly, that's always been the standard. It's just more visible and more consequential in this moment. Now, one more thing before I let you go. In June, I'll be attending the AILA conference here in San Diego. That's the American Immigration Lawyers Association. It's their national conference, and I am really looking forward to it. There are going to be panels on working with expert witnesses, which is obviously directly relevant to us. So stay tuned for my July episode where I'll be bringing back whatever I learned there. And actually, I have a quick announcement. This is the last audio-only episode of Beyond Borders, I think. Starting with the next episode, we are moving to video. Now, I'll be honest, the idea of being on camera makes me a little nervous. I am much more comfortable behind a microphone than in front of a lens, but I think it's the right move and I'm going to do it. So we'll see how it goes. So you'll be able to find me on YouTube, and I'll drop the link in the show notes so you know exactly where to go. The content is going to be the same, just practical, clinically rounded, straight from the field, but now you'll be able to see me. So sort of looking forward to it, mostly. So if you've been listening from the beginning, thank you. This community means a lot to me, and I'm excited to continue the conversation in a new format. So I'll see you, literally, well, you'll see me in the next one. In the meantime, if you're doing this work, thank you. It's not easy. The attorneys are struggling. Our clients are in incredibly difficult situations, and we are holding a lot. So take care of yourselves, consult liberally, and keep doing the work with integrity. That's what I got for today. So I'll talk to you next time. I appreciate you spending time with me today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if this episode helped you, share it with a friend. See you then.